Hey everyone, welcome back to In the Alley. My name is Cody. Glad you guys are back for another video. Week 10, we continue with the previews. 3 games today, tonight, whatever, on Saturday. So let's go ahead and dive into them, and we just go along with the Memorial Day weekend. Alright, so we're going to start off our Saturday slate for Week 10 in the Indoor Football League with a 6:05 p.m. Central Time kickoff. Where else but the Indoor Football League Network? We have the 5-2 Jacksonville Sharks taking on the 2-5 Fishers Freight, and if this looks familiar, these two teams played last week, so back-to-back. It happens more often than you think in the Indoor Football League, at least once or twice per season, depending on the teams and things like that. So with that, just familiarity. So, yeah, you'll see in the series head-to-head there in the, bottom right? You gotta do the L's with the fingers. You'll see Jacksonville just completely destroyed them last week, and yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's take a look at our season leaders for both sides. Caleb Barker, 74 of 131, 907 yards, 17 touchdowns, 9 picks. Jair Wright, 40 of 72, 321 yards, 5 touchdowns, 4 picks. Caleb Barker, your leading rusher, 59 carries, 246 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Jair Wright, 85 carries, 387 yards, and 11 rushing touchdowns. Your season receiving leaders, Jaden Stoshak, 20 receptions, 311 yards, 10 touchdowns. And JT Stokes, 17 receptions, 190 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air. For your injury report, nothing new to report for Fishers, but Jacksonville has Malik Fleming added to the short-term injured reserve. So with that, that's a little bit of a blow to that secondary, but they've made some signings, which we'll talk about in the 25-man roster portion to kind of see how they've bolstered that. Taking a look at our game odds over here, it's over 81.5 or over under 81.5 for the total points, and minus 8.5 for Jacksonville on the road. Minus 278 for the Sharks if you want to pick them straight up, or plus 225 for Fishers if you want to take a home underdog. There's actually been quite a few home underdogs this season, more than you probably think, and it's no different as we go along with this preview. We are in the Fishers Event Center in Fishers, Indiana. As always, 6:05 p.m. Central Time kickoff. And our series head-to-head 1-0 in favor of the Sharks, absolutely obliterating them 59-27. So with that, let's go take a look at our 25-man roster. Let's go take a look at our bet and prediction. We got 2 other previews to go after this. All right, 25-man roster is popping up over my face, and we take a look at the away side first, as we always do. For the Jacksonville Sharks, we have a new quarterback to talk about. It's probably just a depth piece, and I haven't seen anything in regards to anyone else getting cut, released, short-term injured reserve, whatever the case could be. Some people are probably more tuned in than I am. So with that being said, Tyler Huff has been signed, but they still have Caleb Barker and Blaine Espinoza. Barker, most likely your starter. Running backs, Larry McCammon and Vance Bennett. Wide receivers, Karan Ashley, Jaden Stoshak, and Marcus Rogers. Now, caveat to that was last week, they had Malik Fleming kind of go in as an emergency running back, wide receiver, offensive player when there were some injuries. So we'll see how that kind of goes if they bring Bennett in or whatever the case could be when it comes to that offensive depth. So with your offensive line after that, it's going to be Eric Harris, Leon Brown, Dominic Jackson, and Kenny Furman. Defensively, Kevon Bennett, Chris Rice, Noah Lyles, Isaiah Reed, and Tyshawn Holmes for your defensive line. Linebackers, Hayden Hatcher. And in the secondary, Jay Davis, Tyrese Ross, John Huggins, Malik Jones, Corey Kelly, Jordan Whitley. Your kicker is Dylan Barnes. Over to the Fishers side now. Quarterback, Keegan Shoemaker and Jair Wright. We're going to see who starts in this one. It's going to be a little dicey, I'll tell you that much. Shane Simpson is your running back, and then your wide receiver is JT Stokes, Javarius Smith, Isaiah Cox, and Jordan Kress. Offensive line, AJ Forbes, LaQuinston Sharp, Daryl Simmons, Jatarius Spivey, Jeremy Cooper, and Darius Long. Defensively, Christopher Oakley, Jalen Swan, Ayabi Oki, and Akeem Smith for that defensive line. and Tamar Hart for your linebacker. Secondary for the Fishers Freight, Sean Steele, Aaron Jackson, Jaden Rowe, AJ Felton, Justice King, and Devin Hafford rounded out, with the kicker being Victor Leventritt. So that is your 25-man roster for the Jacksonville Sharks, 25-man roster for the Fishers Freight. Let's go take a look at our bet and prediction. We'll move on. All right, bet and prediction time for this game. Boy, was I wrong in the last one, so I'm going to completely flip-flop it for this one. -8.5 for the Sharks. Prediction for this, 45-35. Simple as that. Jacksonville destroyed them. Jacksonville absolutely destroyed them. The defense came alive. I thought there would be an opportunity for Fishers to run the ball a little bit, control the clock, and that didn't work, to the point where Fishers had to bring in Keegan Shoemaker in the second half to try and get some points. I think it was only 7 points that Fishers scored in the first half. So where do you go from here if you're Fishers? That's the biggest question. And starting out 2-0, you figured Fishers was going to be more... You think they'd put up more of a fight. And they have just kind of laid down as of late. They have just not been competitive in some games. They cannot play from behind. So I think it's crucial for them to get out to a lead, and not just a lead, but they have to build a lead. And they just don't do that. They have not been able or been capable of doing that. And once they get behind, minus like the Quad City game, once they get behind, like, they just have a hard time coming back. And a lot of it deals with they run a lot on offense. And if you run a lot, you're wasting clock. They're not throwing the ball. And I mean, they do, but at the same time, it's like it's not enough. You know, it's the complete opposite of a team like San Diego or Iowa, where I harp on some of that, where it's like, hey, they don't have a running back. Well, this team has plenty of running backs. They have plenty of offensive linemen, but there's not really a wide receiver setting themselves away from the pack. Like JT Stokes is your leading receiver, but right on his heels is Jordan Kress when it comes to like yardage or touchdowns or whatever. So they don't really have a standalone guy because they're not throwing the ball. They had to bring in Shane Simpson, and that is their only running back on the roster. So I don't know. And then you have the issue at quarterback position. Who starts? Is it going to be right? Does Shoemaker come in? Shoemaker has started a game or two. What do you do? So Fishers is in it. And with all of that kind of turmoil, Jacksonville is just going to smell blood in the water, for lack of a better pun or term or whatever. I think they're just going to destroy him again, you know, and I'm being courteous here, 45-35. I think Fishers can score points. They are at home. There's an opportunity for them to get back at it. You know, it's any given week. Things can change. I just think Jacksonville is way better. I do. That defense has come along. That offense is very good, and they proved it. That defense was getting after it, and they have gotten after it. I've been told they're the number one defense in the league if you believe the Indoor Football League stats. Oh my God. But if that is true, yeah, the number one defense, and they're proving it. And I have no reason to disprove it. You look at the stats, and you can take them with a grain of salt, but you watch the games, and Jacksonville's defense is really, really good, and they have come on as of late. They were a little shaky. There's a little bit of offensive shakiness, but with the lack of offensive depth and what Jacksonville has been able to accomplish with it, they only run 3 wide receivers. They only have 2 running backs, and if any of them get hurt, like I mentioned, Malik Fleming, a defensive back, had to come in for a couple of plays or a series or two to take over for an injured wide receiver, take over for an injured running back, whatever the case could be. So the lack of the depth, and they're still winning these games. That's a true testament of their resilience of the Jacksonville Sharks. So I expect more of the same from last week, albeit maybe a little bit different. Maybe there's a little bit of strategy. I'm not sure. But -8.5. I do think the Jacksonville Sharks are contenders. There's a reason why I have them in the championship game all the way back in February. There's a reason why I think Fishers was going to struggle a little bit. I said Fishers could win 6-7 games or something like that back in February or March, whenever it was. They can compete. They're just not showing it right now. And yeah, I just think it's more of the same. I think Jacksonville takes it. I do. And there's not been a lot of roster turnover from last week to this week. So there's really not much to go on other than last week's game, and Jacksonville destroyed them. So with that, -8.5 45-35. Jacksonville takes this one. Let's go take a look at our second preview. All right, preview number 2 for our Saturday slate. We have another 6:05 p.m. Central Time kickoff, anywhere but the Indoor Football League. Dun dun dun. The Bay Area Panthers 5-2 heading to San Antonio to take on the 2-5 San Antonio Gunslingers. Let's take a look at our season leaders here. Josh Jones leads in rushing and passing for the Panthers, but we got a good quarterback for San Antonio from last week's game. Josh Jones, 77 of 160, 986 yards, 17 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Joaquin Collazo, 21 of 32. I mean, you saw what he did at Iowa. It's a little shaky. It was a little shaky last week too, but he's doing the work. 21 of 32, 197 yards, 7 touchdowns, 1 pick. Josh Jones, your leading rusher for the Panthers, 84 carries, 322 yards, and 9 touchdowns, 9 interceptions rushing. Jeez. Keyshawn Harper, 50 carries, 147 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And then receiving leaders, Josh Tomas, 16 catches, 288 yards, 4 touchdowns. And Naquan Murray, 32 catches, 416 yards, and 11 touchdowns through the air. For the injury report for both sides, nothing new to report for the Bay Area Panthers. And for San Antonio, they have added Justin Sykes from the defensive line, so that is their second defensive lineman to the short-term injured reserve list, as Ellison Jordan is on the season injured reserve list. Looking over at the game odds, we have an over-under of 82.5 with a 9.5 favorite for the Bay Area Panthers, so plus 9.5 for an underdog for the Gunslingers. Minus 310 to the money line for Bay Area, and plus 250 again if you want a home underdog, our second home underdog of the preview. You see a theme going. Game information, we are at the Freeman Coliseum in San Antonio, Texas. Again, 6:05 p.m. Central Time kickoff. And our head-to-head series, we are tied at 1, with San Antonio winning a nail-biter, dare I say, 28-21 in week 2. And both these teams are figuring each other out. Completely different rosters this time around. Well, maybe for one side, Bay Area's not really changed too much throughout the season. So with that, let's go take a look at our 25-man rosters for both sides. Bet and prediction. We got one more preview to go after this. All right, 25-man rosters popping up over my face. Let's take a look at the away side first for Bay Area. Josh Jones, your starting quarterback, with Liam Thompson as your backup. Wide receiving core, because they do not use a running back, Josh Tomas, Tosin Oyakonmi, Tyrese Chambers, BK Smith, and Trayvon Alexander, with new signee Fernando Quintero, which I was not able to find out where he went to college, but yeah, it's kind of all over the place from what I could find, so fill me in if you're Fernando. So shout out to him, I guess. Offensive line remains the same: Christian Coulter, Sidney Walker, Jamie Navarro, and Delvin Salter. On the defensive side of the ball for the Panthers, Tavon Grant, Jonathan Ross, Morris Joseph, AJ Anai, and William Martin rounding out that defensive line. Linebackers, BJ Tafalele and Brian Horn. And in the secondary, Trey Meadows, Tyler Watson, Frankie West, Landry Mavungu, and Tyrese Wright. Kicker being Axel Perez. Not a lot of changes when it comes to the Panthers. Over to the San Antonio Gunslingers. Quarterbacks, Zach Reeder and Joaquin Collazo. Collazo looking pretty good, all things considered. He will most likely start again this week. Running backs, Keyshawn Harper and CJ Odom. And then your wide receivers, Glenn Gibbons, Callie Rashad, Austin Upshaw, Naquan Murray, and DJ Myers. Your offensive line, Matthew Burrell, Quan Stallworth, Joel Galvin, and LaColby Tucker. Moving to the defensive side of the ball, on the line, Ulrich Jones, Austin Collier, Warren Thomas, and Darren Brown. Linebacker, Eric Rasco. And then in the secondary, Clifton Duck, Christoph Page, Jalen Phelps, Kyle Myers, Mike Miller, and new signee Trenton McGee. He played for the Jacksonville Sharks last year, moving over to San Antonio. Your kicker is Tyler Huddle. And that is your 25-man roster for the Bay Area Panthers and your 25-man roster for the San Antonio Gunslingers. So with that, let's go take a look at our bet and prediction. We'll move on. All right, bet and prediction time for Bay Area and San Antonio. And this one, to me, this one's a little tough. And the reason why is I think it boils down to, is San Antonio fixed? What I mean by fixed is, do they have a quarterback? Do they have someone routinely able to sling the ball around, for lack of a better term? And Joaquin Collazo looked good. You look at the stat line, and stats don't tell the whole story, but 7 touchdowns, almost 200 yards passing. It's a really good stat line. But there were times where he was still bobbling snaps, fumbling the ball. Like, he looked comfortable at times and then completely out of his element at other times. And going up against a team like Bay Area, they will pressure you. Bay Area has always kind of solidified themselves on a very good defense, and the offense is really good as well. But Bay Area, again, that defense has not gone through a lot of changes. The roster as a whole has not gone through a lot of changes. San Antonio is on what number quarterback? They went through what? Malik Henry, Guy Myers, Zach Reeder started a game or two. I know he's still on the roster. I know I'm forgetting one, but they've gone through quite a few quarterbacks, and we're not even at the halfway point of the season yet. So I think the question becomes, what San Antonio do we get? I'm trying not to base everything on recency bias when it comes to, well, San Antonio looked good last week against San Diego, but if San Antonio even covers the spread here, then that, excuse me, I think that looks promising for the Gunslingers. Not just outright win, but just cover the spread. It's almost a 10-point spread, so I mean, it's a nice little back and forth affair. Maybe you can get a nice backdoor cover. San Antonio's defense has looked not good. The offense has been all right, but again, do we have consistency? I think that's the biggest thing right here. This roster has gone through a lot of changes. I think Bay Area just being more of a model of consistency for me is what's going to take it. That's why I have them at -9.5. However, God, did San Antonio look good at times last week? They did. And Naquan Murray will show up. It's just, can Bay Area neutralize Naquan Murray? And will that open up other avenues for Austin Upshaw or Glenn Gibbons or things along those lines? Can San Antonio get a consistent running game going? Their running game has looked good when they had Guy Myers, and he was able to just kind of run the ball himself, but they don't have that right now. Joaquin Collazo has been able to run a little bit. I mean, he still has a, 30-yard touchdown from Iowa, and he has taken off a couple of times, but I worry about that pressure of the Bay Area defense. On the flip side, can San Antonio's defense neutralize Josh Tomas, Tyrese Chambers, that kind of stuff? Josh Jones with his dual threat ability. So I do think Bay Area wins this one. Like I said, -9.5. I don't know if I've given my prediction. 49-38 for Bay Area to win it. It's an 11-point victory, but that's kind of how close I feel with it. I do think San Antonio can cover this spread. I don't know if they're going to win it, but that's just, I'm thinking recency bias with it. I truly am when it comes to, man, San Antonio looked kind of good last week, and they're at home again for the second week. So what can we gather from that? So that's where I have it, -9.5, 49-38 in favor of the Panthers. They still get the victory. I don't know. I could be talked into San Antonio covering the spread and keeping it close, but we'll just find out. But that's where I have it. So with that, let's go take a look at our final preview of the Saturday slate. All right, so our final preview for our Saturday slate for Week 10, kind of a later start compared to the other two previews, 8:05 p.m. Central Time kickoff, as always, on the Indoor Football League Network. We have the 6-1 Arizona Rattlers taking on the 1-6 Northern Arizona Wranglers, and it's just another edition of, can I screw up a team's name with their nickname? So there we go. Our season leaders for Arizona: Dalton Snead leading in rushing and passing, 105 out of 179, 1,210 passing yards, 25 touchdowns to 4 picks. Caleb Lowe is your leading passer for Northern Arizona, but I do not believe he is going to start. 17 of 30, 158 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no picks. Rushing yards, Dalton Snead, 47 carries, 187 yards, and 10 touchdowns. And for Northern Arizona, David Elder, 18 carries, 96 yards, 1 touchdown. Receiving leaders Isaiah Houston for the Rattlers, 34 catches, 474 yards, and 8 touchdowns. For the Wranglers, Deshaun Stoudemire, 29 catches, 343 yards, and 6 touchdowns through the air. Taking a look at our injury report for Arizona, they have added Corey Reed Jr. to the season injured reserve list, so yet another blow to that wide receiving core, and nothing new to speak of for Northern Arizona. Jadakiss Bond's the only one on season injured reserve. Taking a look at our game odds, we have an over-under of 82.5 for this game, and minus 13.5 for Arizona. They keep getting big spreads. Plus 13.5 at home for the Wranglers. I believe this week, or this Saturday, all 3 teams at home are underdogs. So what does that tell you? Minus 485 for Arizona to the money line, and plus 370 for Northern Arizona. If you feel so strongly about a home upset for the Wranglers, $10 on that plus 370 will net you $37. So bet accordingly, I guess. Game information, we are in the Finlay Toyota Center in Prescott Valley, Arizona. Again, 8:05 p.m. Central Time kickoff. Adjust your clocks accordingly. And our head-to-head favors the Rattlers 9-3. Last meeting, week 6 of this year, Arizona 49-20. But with a little bit of roster turnover, kind of on both sides, to be honest. And from their last meeting just, 4 weeks ago, about a month ago. So there you have it. So let's go take a look at those rosters. Let's go take a look at our bet and prediction. We'll get on out of here. All right, 25-man rosters popping up over my face. Taking a look at the away side first for the Arizona Rattlers. Dalton Sneed, your starting quarterback, with Hayeve Magale as your backup. Just please tell me how to pronounce it. Your running backs, Shannon Brooks and Ron Brown Jr. Wide receivers, Jamal Miles, Isaiah Houston, Jordan Parker, Trey Dixon, and re-signed Austin Johnson. He's been on the roster, 2 or 3 times already, so they've cut him to bring him back. They've done that with a couple of players this year. On the offensive line, Michael Brown, Bryson Mays, and Christopher Strotter. Moving over to the defensive side of the ball, Kevin Sims, Rashawn Yates, Isaiah Coe, James Nimwaya, Jalen Bass. Linebacker, Avaya Lealama Matafeo. There you go. And then in the secondary, Jermaine Dobbs, Devontae Merriweather, Deontay Overstreet, Rashi Hodge, Otjo Soy, and Ethan Castleberry. I'm white. I'm sorry. I can't pronounce names like this. I know. Your kicker is Dawson Evans, and that is it for the Arizona Rattlers. Moving over to the Northern Arizona Wranglers, Caleb Lowe and Ramon Atkins are your quarterbacks. Ramon Atkins got the start last week. He looked pretty good, all things considered, so we'll probably see more of him as the season progresses. And then, there's that little bit of Ramon Atkins from Duke City over to, Tucson, and then he got traded, and then the whole thing about that. Your running backs, Marvin Kinsey, Nolan Susel. Your wide receivers, Deshaun Stoudemire, Arlen Bruce, Marlon Cook, Kobe Smith, and David Elder. Your offensive line, Junior Atuatasi, Chris Simon, DJ Stuckey, and Ryan Atkins. On the defensive side of the ball for the Wranglers, Darius Johnson, Karan Bolden, Mason Newton, and Devin Thomas for the defensive line. But then don't forget, I know it says linebacker on the roster unless they've changed it, Chizzy Amunakwe. He will probably play defensive line as he has all season. Travaris Farrell, Kalen Hicks are your linebackers. And then in the secondary, Bakembe Carney, Kieran Page, Malik Saunier, and Edward McClendon. Kicker is Stefan Spino, and that rounds it out. That's your 25-man roster for the Arizona Rattlers, your 25-man roster for the Northern Arizona Wranglers. Let's go take a look at our bet and prediction, and we will get on out of here. All right, so bet and prediction for Arizona at Northern Arizona. I have minus 13.5 in favor of the Rattlers. However, looking at the last month of games, you can be swayed to take the cover of plus 13.5, and if you do, I don't blame you. Since Arizona beat Northern Arizona in Week 6, Arizona has lost to Tucson. And yes, the score looks a little different because Tucson had that end of the game lateral touchdown to make it 42, but they would have probably lost by 1. And then you take a look, they beat Bay Area, had to come back in that one. They won by 5. And then they come back against Vegas last week, they win by 3. So some of these games have been close or they have straight up lost. So I do not blame anyone for wanting to take Northern Arizona plus 13.5. The question remains, Northern Arizona played Massachusetts. They won, yes. But how good is Massachusetts? And that's the thing. Other than that, they're 0-6 up until that point. They haven't really put up too much of a fight in some of the games. They have, but they haven't. And now we have some roster turnover with the Wranglers and the Rattlers, as injuries have kind of hit the Rattlers in the last couple of weeks. We've got a new quarterback for Northern Arizona. Caleb Lowe took that shot against San Diego. So all things considered, I still think, obviously, Arizona's going to win this one. It's just that issue of, do you take recency bias? That's the biggest part for me. Do you take recency bias into effect? If you do, then I'd probably take Northern Arizona plus 13.5. But I'm just trying to think critically, trying to think logically with it. I think Arizona, just looking at it, they are the better team. I do think that they can take the victory. But with that being said, I'm not shocked if people take plus 13.5 just based on what Arizona has kind of looked like. But what Arizona has kind of looked like in the last couple of weeks has been they lost to a playoff caliber they beat a playoff caliber Vegas team. They beat a playoff caliber Bay Area team. And is Tucson in the playoffs? It's pretty damn close to it. They lost to Tucson. So, and losing to Tucson on kind of a walk-off field goal, crazy kickoff lateral thing after that. I mean, they've played close games. So is this one of these games where Arizona just goes, yeah, screw it, we're just gonna destroy them? For Northern Arizona, again, Ramon Atkins looked good. That defense was able to get after Massachusetts. I think they had 8 tackles for a loss or something close to that. But again, it's Massachusetts. Massachusetts is not having a good year. And Northern Arizona caught him at the right time. Back end of a 2 straight weeks of being on the West Coast. Issues aplenty for the Pirates. So yeah, I'm still thinking this minus 13.5. My prediction for this one is going to be Arizona 49-34. I do think Northern Arizona can put up some points, and maybe it's some garbage time touchdowns. I'm not sure, but for all intents and purposes, 49-34. I think Arizona is able to just kind of get the ball, score at will in a way, take the ball away, put some points up, go bang bang with it when it comes to touchdowns. Like they score a touchdown, get a pick, score another touchdown, things like that. And that clearly puts them up 14 points. So something along those lines. I am not shocked if Northern Arizona backdoor covers just the way that they played last week. But again, you have to take in consideration who the opponent was. So minus 13.5 for the Rattlers for our bet, 49-34 in favor of the Rattlers for our prediction. That is it for week 10. Let's get on out of here and wrap everything up. And that is it for our week 10 Saturday preview. We got one more game to go after this as we round out the Memorial Day weekend. So as always, hope you guys have a safe and fun holiday weekend, 3-day, 4-day weekend, whatever you're working. So with that, gonna sign off here. That was a really fun game on Friday. I will not spoil it. If you haven't watched it, go and get on the Indoor Football League Network. I think there's something about a 7-day trial, so they're not even doing the 30 days anymore, which that sucks. But anyway, with that, we still have one more game on Sunday, 3 games tonight, and yeah, they always have their games on demand and stuff on the network. So if you want to go check out games of Christmas past, you can. So with that, I'm going to sign off here, guys. Love and appreciate you as always. And with that, if you feel inclined and you want to comment, share, subscribe, do anything like that, means the world to me. It means the world that you guys are watching the videos, even the ones as far back as a couple weeks ago, as I'm getting these recaps and everything out to get caught back up. I know I sound like a broken record when I say that, but that's where we're at. I got week 8 done. I'm going to work on week 9 all this weekend, work on week 10 as the games go out, and get caught back up, get back into it, so that way I'm not playing catch up and I can react to things within the moment and try not to do recaps with known hindsight. So that sucks. But anyway, I'm going to take off here, guys. Love and appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for taking the time to watch this stuff. Out of all the videos on YouTube, you clicked on this one, so it means the world to me. So with that, I'm going to take off here. See you.